So the ILP core competency that I would like to focus on is the global and intercultural perspectives competency. I chose this category for a couple of reasons. The first being that I believe I showed the most growth from my start to end at Michigan and specifically Ross within this category. And also because I believe that my growth within this competency will prepare me the most for life, my career, and managing relationships after graduation. So, coming into Michigan, I grew up in sort of a bubble in Kansas City where most people from my hometown grew up in Kansas, their parents were from Kansas. They often went to the same high schools as generations of their family, and I was part of that group. And so there was limited exposure to diverse identities and backgrounds throughout my time growing up. But upon arriving at Michigan, I was immediately exposed to the diverse identities and perspectives that many of the students and faculty bring. Even in conversations in my first week with students in the dorms or in class or in orientation, learning from faculty that were from different areas, and even the material that I learned in class, it immediately exposed me to a variety of different identities and backgrounds that shape the way people are. And knowing that I had this exposure at the University of Michigan, I decided to take it upon myself to expose myself to those diverse backgrounds as much as I could. So I would talk with as many people as I can and or as I could and really learn what makes them tick. Where are they from? What values and beliefs do they hold? What was it like for them growing up? What do they like to do? Really figuring out what their identities and backgrounds are and how that relates to who I am as a person and how my background shaped my identity and who I am today. I believe my zenith moment came when I was subletting my apartment for my study abroad semester. My subletter, Anas, was from Morocco and had somewhat of a similar relationship with Michigan where he grew up in a very different background where not a lot of people had that exposure to the place that he was going to end up. And so I realized that instead of just making this a transactional relationship, using our identities and differences, but also shared experiences, we could really help each other out. So I was able to think about how it was for me coming to Michigan and being in a completely new environment and how I could help him smooth that transition for when he eventually moved to Ann Arbor. And on his side, he was able to explain his travels in Africa and Europe and how that could potentially help my semester abroad. And I realized that throughout my few years at Michigan, and especially in this moment, my eagerness to learn about people's backgrounds and identities is really a strength that can not only help me in the future, but also can help those around me learning from my experiences. So even if it's waiting in line for a coffee or talking to the person next to me on the public transportation, learning about people's backgrounds and identities, how that relates to how I grew up, and sharing our experiences can be a very impactful way to learn about the people around you, get familiar with your environment, and also just expose yourself to a variety of different cultures, backgrounds, and identities that can really change my life and those around me.